Welcome to East Coast DNA. We have another special guest with us here today, Sheil. Now, Sheil is spelt a little different, so I'm curious right off the bat with a question that I didn't prepare you for. So it's capitals all the way across, SHEAL.
Yes.
Is the word heel supposed to be in there besides being pulled from your name?
Yes, very savvy. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so my nickname has always been by like close friends and family, Sheil. My name is Sheilagh. So I grew up hearing Sheil all the time. And so that name felt very true to me. Obviously, I wanted it to be differentiated a bit from that. So the all caps Sheil is like exactly that. It's like she heal. So songwriting has been like a form of my own therapy, and so it just felt like it really fit. Yeah, kind of deliberated over that for a little while, but that one just felt pretty effortless. Yeah.
I Originally, when I started doing podcasting, an artist that I had interviewed from Truro had kind of a similar thing going. Awoke was supposed to be like folk, so it was
Ooh.
spelt different, and it was all capitals in the logo at the time. I don't know if he purposely did it that way, but I just things like that stick out to me. So I had to ask you that right off the bat.
Yes. I mean, and I appreciate like, I think a lot of times I've seen it written just capital S and then lowercase HEAL, which, makes sense. But I'm always careful to write it anywhere with all caps because that is yeah, that's the name. That's the name. And then it
So
different. Yeah, go ahead.
besides the official spelling, which we've gone into that a little bit on a few other episodes of people too, that when it comes down to like getting you paid, that kind of matters. So
Yeah,
it's stylistically, I mean, there's an aesthetic to that type of thing as well. That as an artist, you're looking to reflect yourself a little differently and stick out in the crowd. But it does matter at the end of the day when people are starting to tally up who was listening to what and where.
exactly. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
now you are from Nova Scotia originally as well.
Yeah.
So whereabouts did you, well, like, where was your stomping grounds growing up? And maybe give me a little bit of your history in Nova Scotia.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in Nova Scotia. I lived in Fall River till I was about 8, and then my parents moved more rurally to just by the Halifax airport, like a 5-minute drive from Enfield. Oakfield is the place.
Okay.
And then I lived in Halifax, like in the city for a number of years, like my university years. I was there for, I did a degree at Dalhousie. So was in Halifax and then left Nova Scotia, I think when I think I was kind of gone and then came back, gone and then came back a number of times for like other post-secondary stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I was there till my early 20s, I would say, in Nova Scotia.
So you did have the music bug while you were here, because I did see that you had written a song when you were 17, I think.
Yes, that was I think my first song was 17. Yes. Not a good one.
No.
Not a good one. I mean, oh, do I even remember what it was? It was like teenage angsty, but like of course East Coast girl. There was like I think I talked about the ocean, like waves as like a metaphor for love and
Hmm.
you know I just remember there was like a line that was talking about like the walls that you put around your heart, like just teenage emotional angsty stuff. A very bad song, like a really poorly written song. But I should say it was like I didn't know what I was doing, but to
Hmm.
be honest, I still don't like I've never been taught formally how to songwrite. Like I've just always intuited um my way through things to what I'm trying to communicate. So I think I mean that first song is I guess it is similar to like how I've written since then. It's just been like, okay, what do I want to try to say? I'm going to try to say it. I last week I was actually listening to this it was like a songwriting workshop on YouTube, I think it was. And the instructor was listing 5 mistakes that early songwriters will make. And I've never actually like I've never had any formal songwriting training, and really watching this was like the first time. It's wild to say because I've been writing, I think I have like 16 songs that are like recorded and published under my
Hmm.
belt. And I, was like, it's just been a new realization where I'm like, oh, I should like learn about songwriting because there's probably things that I could learn about the process of making songs and even make my own songs better. Um, and so I was like listening to the teacher kind of go through the like rules, the mistakes that people make, and I was like, oh, okay. Like of those 5, I actually don't make any of those mistakes. I somehow intuitively knew that you shouldn't do this, 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 and this. So that was like encouraging, certainly. But yeah, I mean, that first song was definitely just like how I write now. It's like, okay, I'm gonna try to just like strum some chords, see what melody emerges from that, and then maybe there's some phrases that come just through like the run through of this like the melody a few times, and then maybe there's a theme emerging in my life, and I'm gonna try to like hone in and write about that specifically. But yeah, that song, I don't even know if it exists. I mean, it probably does exist on a hard drive somewhere, but I don't want to
Yeah.
go dig because it might just be too
Yeah,
crazy
fair.
to listen to.
So
Yeah,
sometimes it's that effort versus reward. You kind of like the memory of it more than actually finding it.
leave it there in the dust on that hard drive, no
Fair
problem.
enough. So you ended up after your post-secondary education and settling down, you ended
Mhm.
up having a couple children. So was that kind of a step away from music at that point? Becoming a mom kind of became the
Yeah.
focal point?
You know what? Strangely, that I feel marks the stepping into music.
Interesting. Okay.
In a more like focused way. Like because music has always been a hobby for me, up until like I would say the last like 5 or 6 years. I've always had another job. I'm a teacher. I've always like done it when I have time, like on weekends or evenings or whatever. And I think it was probably in the last like, yeah, 5 or 6 years that I started having more conversations with my partner and like close friends. Just like thinking about how quickly time is passing and like not wanting to get to a certain point in my life where I look back and I go, I regret not doing this more. And I regret not putting more like time and energy into this. And I think I have something to share. Like, I think I have creative potential that is untapped.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, those conversations also, I feel like they coincided with like just where I was in my life on a personal level. Like, that was right around when um, we started a family. And so I actually recorded my kind of, I mean, I did an EP in 2016 that was like just released to like friends and family only, but like my first like official debut EP was Courage Again. And that one I recorded most of it actually when I was like 8 months pregnant with my first daughter. And it did feel like get this done before the before the baby's born. And then we recorded more after she was born. But yeah, there was just something about that time that felt like very urgent. I was like, I want to do this for real, and I think it makes sense to pay attention to that like desire in me and not just like let it pass me by. And also like for my kids, like I think yeah, it just felt like this like important thing for my daughters to grow up seeing me do something that I love. And whether I'll be able to
Yeah.
do it career forever, I mean that doesn't matter, but just that they see me setting aside time um, for creativity, for fostering like a passion of mine. I feel like that's like something very important that I want to communicate to them for their own like self and trajectory. So yeah.
I love to see that because as the assumption that I was kind of going with for the narrative, that's what I
Yeah.
see a lot of times is that people that have artistic endeavors kind
Yeah.
of put a lot of that stuff by the side. But
Yes.
I am now, some of this is more because I'm wise with many years, more
Yes.
so than my life experience and what I did at the time. I do
Right.
know that showing your children by example that
Yes.
exactly like you're saying, to kind of make time for yourself and that kind of that feeling of pride that you get for accomplishing something that you set out to do that you wanted to do. Like you're creating something that doesn't exist without you. And if you kind of hold that inside or put it away, you're kind of unintentionally showing your children that like as you get older, you put those things away, but you don't have to.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, just to have like an artifact of that. Like it's such a gift that I've been able to do it and to record and like I'm just so proud. So I mean some of my early stuff I'm like, wow, that was like my first time recording. I'm like, oof, that's like in some ways it's embarrassing and then in other ways I'm like, no, I'm actually really glad it's here and it sort of charts my growth as an artist. It's very cool. And I will also say like just having kids like before when I had way more time and like no children, I didn't write more. Like
Hmm.
somehow way less time, like more time constraints. It's like I'm still teaching and I'll get home at 4, my kids get off the bus at 4, I'm with them 4 to 8. They're in bed at 8 and then I'm exhausted. Somehow even with those constraints, like it just makes you use 20 minutes in a very different way than you would use
Yeah.
like a full day before with like so much time. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. We become efficiency experts in our own lives as we get older, I guess.
Exactly. Exactly. It becomes more urgent. You're like,
Yes.
nothing is promised. Time is running out. I'm getting really old. Let me just do this thing. So, yeah.
Now, I do want to ask as well before we get too far away from it, the sound itself of your music. Now, it's not something I immediately put into any specific category with any other specific artist, which is nice. If I think back in my own listening history, I've alleged in a few episodes that I have quite a random collection of female singers from over the years. So
Okay.
there is a couple artists that maybe I could see some similarities, like maybe let's keep it CanCon. Shout out to Wild Strawberries. If you don't know them, maybe go check them out.
Hey, cool.
Or early Network Records material where Sarah McLachlan would have landed at one point. So
Nice.
some of the people that were operating on that label, they get into some weird stuff with some industrial music, but that's kind of what I'm getting at too, is that it's not straightforward. You have kind of a layered approach that it's not, like I said, specifically a genre that I would label it with, but there's a little bit of that kind of trip hop kind
Mm-hmm.
of layered sound where you've got like a DJ type sound with vocals over top of it, but you have
Yes.
layered instrumentation in there as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious, is something that you pull inspiration from other artists for, or is that come down to collaboration with, because I know you've got a few other artists that you're working with in the background there too.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. I mean, honestly, I don't think I grew up steeped in any one genre. And certainly within all these different genres that I've like, basically I've honed in on um specific songs in certain genres. And like the through line that I can think of is just like anything with a really beautiful, captivating melody always catches my attention. So certainly, yeah, like Sarah McLachlan. You know, anything that is melodically super strong, but also emotive, um, like I remember the first time I heard, I think my dad had like a Eric Clapton CD, and like the first time I heard Tears in Heaven, I was probably like 8 or 9, and I
Hmm.
just remember being like jaw dropping and like emotional, like super emotional about it. And but then I also remember like I played in like I do have some like classical training, and I played in an orchestra at the like Shabukto Road at the, is it the Conservatory of Music in Halifax? And like I was like 10 and I played in this orchestra, and like I also remember being like moved by the sound of classical music around me as a little
Hmm.
kid. So I didn't discriminate. It was just like honestly the melody and the emotion, the emotionality behind it that always like pulled me in. Yeah, and like I don't know what, it's actually hard. Like I've been calling myself this time around folk pop or pop folk, but it's like honestly, it just feels like I'm just on a who knows what who knows what's going to be next time around. And I think I do pull from a lot of different influences, and I tend not. I mean, I do also feel like a lot of my songs, interestingly, they actually sound quite. There is like a through line, I think, but they also I feel like do sound quite distinct from each other. Like they don't sort of fall nicely into a particular
Hmm.
genre. Yeah. Don't know.
Do you yourself start, like you mentioned earlier too, picking up guitar and strumming it and kind of writing song from there, but do
Mhm.
you start with a piano? Because a lot of them are key heavy.
This time around, yes. Like my first, so Courage Again, the EP I recorded in 2022, that was more guitar based. And Golden Hours, the EP I just released at the end of September, that is, I think, predominantly um, keys. And that was like quite a, it's interesting because it's like I grew up playing piano. I grew up playing classical piano. Um, but then like when I moved away from home, it's like piano is a much less portable instrument. And so yeah, I just like had a guitar because it was just more portable. So I began to like play more of my songs on guitar. But like I'm an amateur guitar player at best. And so, you know, but it did also feel for Courage Again that it felt still important for me to play
Hmm.
that instrument. Like I didn't want to be like pushed out of the studio by like some guy who's going to be like playing the guitar part better than me. I'm like, no, I want to play the guitar part. It's not going to be incredible, um, but it's going to be me.
Yeah.
And then this time, this time around, I think was what was really cool was like James Robertson and Gavin Gardiner. Those were like the producer duo that I worked with. James is an excellent guitar player, and I wanted him to record guitar. Um, but it was also because I played piano on all the songs, and I'm like a much more competent piano player than they are. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. But it felt like I felt very comfortable in my own skin.
Sure.
And I think also it just made the EP feel this time around more effortless than Courage Again, just because it was like I just have more tools, um, just because of like my classical training. Like I just felt more comfortable on the piano, and then as a result, I think I just sing more effortlessly. I don't know. I don't really know why it just feels like the sound is distinct this time around, and just kind of it just feels more effortless. But I think it just has to do with like piano based um, writing. Yeah.
And you squeezed in a little bit extra strings there with a guest artist as well. Is that more of a throwback to your Nova Scotia roots or the classical training?
Yeah, I mean both, I think. Drew Jayeka, he's like incredibly accomplished. Like I think he is like the Toronto strings guy. I mean, he does, I'm sure, worldwide stuff, but he's like done arranging for Dua Lipa. He's like the guy. He's incredible. Um, and he was a contact with like through Gavin Gardiner, who I worked with. I played violin because I grew up playing violin, but it's been so many years. I played violin on my first EP, and that was certainly like a nod to like my, childhood growing up in Nova Scotia and like playing violin. But yeah, this time around, I think I just wanted to focus on like my strengths, and that was me and the piano. And I was like, you know what? Yes, let's have Drew come and just like um, arrange what he hears and like kind of bring his own musical sensibilities to it. And yeah, I love that's for the song Stay Awake. I really love what he came up with.
And the duo you had producing that you've already mentioned there, that like they have their own band as well, or several from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So can you transfer your studio sound to the live setting? Did you have to get new players, or are you able to get these guys out with you?
Um, yeah, so right. So between the three of us, we recorded everything with the exception of Drew, who did the strings. And yeah, I mean, I have like all new players. That would be so fun to play the songs with them as well. But no, it's been cool. I mean, I think the live, like from taking a song from like writing it on the guitar or on the piano, just like solo acoustic to like moving it into studio, that's this whole other beautiful world where you get to like create, like the song comes to life in a new way. And I have felt similarly once you move from recording to um performing the songs, it's like again it comes to life in a new way because whatever session players you hire, they're just going to have their own musical sensibilities that they will bring. And obviously there's like direction I give them, and um some of the songs I'm like I really want it to sound just like on the record, and like they've
Mhm.
done a really good job interpreting that and doing that. But there's been other ones that actually it's been interesting. Like there was a song on my old EP called Courage Again that I just felt kind of tired of it, and like I didn't want to perform it this time around. And I just started playing around with it with my band, and we've just shifted it a little bit.
Mhm.
And I've fallen in love with that song again. Like I love it, and it has felt cool to like see a new life happening now, like 3 years from or 4 years from when I first released it. So yeah, I mean, I love the collaboration of recording, and I love the collaboration that comes with like performing songs live. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty fun.
It is fun to watch as songs like the way you just described do evolve once they've been performed live. And even though we would all love to see the people that you originally recorded with follow you out on the road,
Mhm.
just as you said, throwing in those extra players gives a little bit of different flavor, and it allows the evolution of those songs to kind of take its own path that it may not otherwise. So it's very cool that you're able to have that experience. And you're gearing up right now for a few tour dates in support of the new release that we were talking about. So,
Mhm.
what can you tell people about what you have in store for this tour?
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. I'm already like, um, I have two shows left. So I played, there'll be 6 shows in total. I have traveled around some of Southern Ontario with a 3-piece or a 4-piece band. Next week I have kind of my like official big album release show in Toronto, and that's at Burdock, which is this great venue. It's like an awesome listening room, and it's my favorite. I think it's my favorite venue in the city. And that's full band. There's going to be like 6 of us on
Cool.
stage. So that's going to be very exciting. And then I'm playing a homecoming show. I'm going to Nova Scotia on November 24th. That show is at Sanctuary Arts Center. I've never played that venue. I mean, I think I've done one little small house show like
Hmm.
a number of years ago. But beyond that, I've never played a homecoming show in Nova Scotia. And so I'm like super, super excited to finally be doing that. And like I've just heard such great things about the Sanctuary Arts Center. So yeah, it'll be like there's nobody opening. It's just gonna be me like playing 2 sets.
Hmm.
I have a couple side players with me. So Kev Corbett
Oh,
and Cass Mann. Yeah.
amazing.
Uh, yeah, and they're like, I mean, I haven't met them yet. Like we've just been like communicating over email and stuff, but yeah, they both came highly recommended. They're incredible. Like I think they both got like side player of the year noms. Like
Oh yeah, they're both
amazing.
amazing. I think you could probably pull a crowd if you just put their names out there.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, like Kev just there was some Toronto artists that I was just like asking for recommendations for players out there like in Nova Scotia, and like 10 people were like Kev Corbett, Kev Corbett, Kev Corbett. They're like very excited. So yeah, I'm pumped to like play the songs with them. And that will be also a new thing because like again, they're bringing their sensibilities. They have like little voice memos of like the practices for my Toronto band just for their own reference, but like it's going to be a new thing with just like the three of us, which will be really super fun. So,
Oh yeah, that's really exciting. And quick shout out to Cass is actually from the area that I'm in. I'm outside of Halifax, but
oh,
that's
no
that's
way.
she's from here. So
Oh,
I
wild.
always I always like when she gets referenced in these
Yeah,
episodes. So you definitely are in good hands there. You have a couple excellent performers with you and very experienced. So I'm sure if you need anything, any last minute stuff, they know exactly who to call and where to
exactly.
get anything you need. So,
Hear all that. Yes.
and let's set in sights to the new year since we are getting quite close to the end of 2024.
Hmm.
I'm curious with a new release and then a short tour. Is there
Mhm.
plans to go back into the studio or are you gearing up for a bigger tour in 2025?
No, I'm not. I'm gearing up to cocoon and do like my most favorite thing to do in winter, which is just to like start getting into like the writing portion again. I think that's honestly like my favorite part of the album cycle is just
Hmm.
like I don't know. I mean, I derive a lot of inspiration from a lot of things. It's like certainly life, but like it could be the books I'm reading or something I'm listening to, and so I'm just excited to like um yeah, just like kind of go inward and start like being creative again. I mean, there is also creativity in this part of the album cycle, like performing songs live is super creative. But in terms of writing new material, like I'm really excited for that. That will be yeah, I mean my last show is that homecoming show in Nova Scotia on November 24th, and then after that, yeah, I'm just gonna cocoon, never gonna leave my house until spring.
Well, if there's anybody out there that wants to follow that journey, I'm sure you're going to be updating people on social media, at least from time to time, even during the cocooning process.
Definitely. I'll hop on there every so often. I am actually planning to take quite a break from social media. Like I will be kind of on
Hmm.
and off if there's like, I don't know, who knows? Every so often if there's something to share, but mostly I'm actually looking forward to being offline because I feel like I do write better when I'm just not having to feel like I'm like producing content. Um,
So you're reflecting that sense of urgency that you had in creating new material, that you're reflecting it back out to your audience, and they're going to have a sense of urgency to go out and see you perform live before you disappear for
right
a while.
here, exactly. You got to come to these shows. Exactly. You won't see me for a long time. Yeah.
And for the release, where should people go out and find it to listen to? Is it like Spotify, Apple Music?
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. It's available on all the streaming sites. Bandcamp, you can purchase the tracks for sure. I have them on. I have Golden. Actually, I have both EPs, Golden Hours and Courage Again, on vinyl. So you can get that by DMing me on like Instagram, or there's like a contact page on Instagram, and then also Facebook. You can just message me there. Um, but yeah, like it's all available online. My Instagram handle is sheil.music. Bandcamp, I think, is sheil.bandcamp.com. And then yeah, just like if you type in Sheil music, you might even want to type in Sheil music Toronto, and I think it would pull me up in that way.
Great. Well, definitely recommend that people go out there and follow you online and go out and give a listen to the new material for sure. And for anyone in the Nova Scotia region, that homecoming date is coming up very soon. And for anyone that's in the Toronto area, the show that you have coming up is probably just a couple days away from the airing of this episode. So still time to get out there and grab some tickets.
That would be great. Yeah, the Halifax show, there's 21 tickets left, so they're going fast. So definitely grab them when you can.
Great. Well, I'm hoping for almost guaranteed sold out for you.
Mhm. Me too.
And if anyone wanted a nice little sampling from your catalog, what would you like to play off with today?
Um, I think the end. Yeah, that one is the first track on Golden Hours. And yeah, I think it's like it would be my favorite off the album. So I think that's like a good place to start. Yeah.
And before we actually play off with the end, I
Hmm.
do know that the full Golden Hours has a kind of all-encompassing narrative that goes with it, and each song has its own kind of metaphorical meaning that goes behind everything. So, do you want to set users up with a little bit of imagery on what the end was to you as you were writing it?
Sure. What do I want to say? Well, so the end I wrote 2 winters ago, and just we're in fall right now, right? Like the radiance of leaves that are super bright, turning brown, falling down, and then winter comes. And so kind of on the backdrop of like thinking about this cyclical nature of seasons, how things die, and then springtime brings like new life. At that time, there were a number of relationships in my life and like conversations I was having with friends who were just going through like difficult things, endings of whether they be relationships or like projects or just important things in their life, and just like grappling with the pain of those endings, and just feeling like feeling the finality of that, feeling that like there can't possibly be life after this. And what's interesting is like now looking back on those conversations, it's like life did go on. There was
Hmm.
more life. There is more goodness on the other side, and sometimes it's hard to see it when you're in the midst of it. So I think that the song is just basically a commentary on that like in order for things to sometimes in order for like a new thing to grow, something actually has to like die and move out of the way, to actually make space for that new thing. So yeah, that's kind of what the end is all about.
Amazing. And I'm assuming that starting off the album is because the focus of the album after that is the endings giving way to rebirth.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
perfect time of year to kind of
Mm.
end with that theme as well, as we're kind of we're approaching. If you could see the view I have here, I've been squinting a little because of the lighting, but I'm hitting that golden hour here a little earlier than normal, but it's beautiful out there, and it's actually atypically warm down here this fall, but
For
we are
us.
definitely in that point of the year where we're starting to see the end of the life cycle for some of those trees out there, and
Mm.
hopefully we can keep our spirits up through the winter as we go into a spring of rebirth.
Mm-hmm. Let's all just write things, make things.
Amazing. I'm actually feeling inspired. I've been meaning to do a little bit more writing instead of just talking all the time too. So I may give my hand out a little bit myself this winter on some of those
Oh,
snowy days anyway when I'm stuck indoors.
so good.
Well, thank you for your time. And for anyone that's still with us, stay tuned. We'll listen to the end.
Thanks so
And
much.
thanks again. Bye.
City went dark. I walked down empty streets until I stopped. Is it that you know